Anybody need a pencil? I have an extra.
Okay.
Lindsay.
Ready?
The crowd.
Is Lindsay coming?
And no,
Sure.
her dog is going to be put down tomorrow.
Oh,
She's
God.
not up to it.
Okay.
Recording in progress.
So I believe it's 7 o'clock, and I'm going to call the special select board meeting of Tuesday, January 3rd to order. And the first item is approval of the agenda.
Moved.
Second,
Moved and seconded. Are there any requested changes to the agenda? Anything you know of, Kathleen?
No.
Okay, hearing none. All in favor of approving the agenda as drafted signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Next is approval of the consent agenda.
I move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
second.
Moved and seconded. Is there anything in the consent agenda that anybody would like to discuss?
I just had one comment on the second page of the Addison County Regional Planning Commission letter of the grant, the municipal roles and budgeting, adequate staff, municipal planning commission, other municipal board time over a 2-year period. Just.
Pointing out the
What-
vacancy? Is that what you're doing?
Nope,
or No?
nope, this is about the grant
The
for.
transportation
trans-
oriented grant.
Yeah,
Oh, the Northwestern Vermont
Yeah.
Todd grant?
the TOD plan for.
Yeah.
I just would make that comment.
Okay. I will point out that there is a letter of support for Velco's application to expand Torrey Road Substation in this approval. And if there's anything else, if there's not, hearing none, all in favor of approving the consent agenda as presented, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Okay. Citizen comments. Is there anybody here for something? Yes. Even Laura?
Hello, friends. I am Laura Asermoli, and I want to thank you for your careful work on the budget and support of our various committees. And I want to emphasize that the climate got my attention, and that we are in climate emergency, and that everything that we do needs to consider that. So I know that we're going to be hearing other reports tonight, and I'm paying attention from that filter. And I encourage you and hope that you are too. We are in climate emergency, a very serious one, and we saw that last week.
Thank you, Heather. Is there anybody else who's here for
That's Laura.
Laura?
It's okay.
Where did Heather come from?
I'm right here.
Yeah, looking at you, talking to anybody else for something that's not on there. Okay. Then we're going to move on to continued review of the draft FY24 general budget, and I'll turn it over to Kathleen.
Okay, I am sad to report that I don't have any big reveal of major budget savings or money falling from trees to help us out with that. But I am happy to call up the budget. And if you have had any thoughts to share about it, happy to answer any questions you have. Or perhaps we should go into Fred and Kurt's presentations on the budget, on their budget request. Fred Kinney from ACEDC is
I got first. It's
Moving
unusual.
right along.
okay. Great.
Good evening. I'm Fred Kenny, Executive Director of the Addison County Economic Development Corporation. On behalf of the ACEDC Board and our membership, I want to thank the Select Board and voters of Middlebury for your continued support of ACEDC over the years. Your support helps us maintain our operations, but also, I think more importantly, helps us to do our work to advance economic and community development in the region. We are requesting an amount that's consistent, I think, the same amount we've requested for at least the past 10 years. That's a $7,000 municipal contribution. So I appreciate the opportunity to be with you tonight and do a presentation on ACEDC. So I thought I'd provide a brief overview of ACEDC, who we are, what we do, what is a regional development corporation a little bit. Then give a brief summary of our staffing and our budget, and end with some highlights of our activity and impact in FY22, which for us is July of 21 through June of 22. I've just distributed a FY22 impact report that we did this year. And I encourage you to go to our website and look at our new interactive impact map. Shows all the projects we were involved in FY22. And I want to give kudos to RPC, the Regional Planning Commission, for their help on creating that interactive map. I think the link was given to you with the materials that I sent in for tonight. So ACEDC is one of 12 regional development corporations in Vermont. RDCs are independent, nonprofit economic development organizations that are overseen by boards. Each RDC started locally at different times for different reasons and developed organically to address unique economic conditions in each region. So some of the RDCs cover a larger region, like up in the Northeast Kingdom, there's one RDC for 3 counties. Springfield has one just for Springfield, but here in Addison County, ours covers the county. There's others like that, like Rutland's a county-based one. So we each operate a little differently, but we each get a state performance grant, and for that grant, we serve as the coordinators of economic and community development in each region. Sort of the eyes and the ears, hands and feet on the ground to implement state and regional economic and community development goals. Our state agreement requires and ensures that we consistently deliver certain services in each region, such as business development and recruitment, direct one-on-one assistance to businesses and entrepreneurs, project development services, including relocation and expansion, direct services to businesses, and referral when needed to services and programs at the regional or state or federal level, business education and training, and collaboration and coordination with local, regional, state, and federal partners to help advance underlying economic development goals, such as workforce development, worker housing, early childhood education and care, and broadband. So on these issues, we may not be the lead, but we partner with the lead on those broader economic development issues. So to fulfill our state grant, those are kind of the things we have to do. We all do it to our best ability with the staff and funding that we have. So we serve as a one-stop shop for economic development and business services. If we don't have or offer what a business needs, we make sure they get connected to the right person, program, or service. So that's a lot of what I do, is spend time with businesses, understanding what they need, what their growth path is, what they need to be successful, and then connect them, either provide the service they need or connect them to a service. Some RDCs have additional services. For example, several of us operate revolving loan funds. We have one. And some own and rent property. We are not a property owner at this time, but some own quite a bit of property and make quite a bit of money doing that. And they rent it out to businesses. They may have a business incubator as part of that, but like Brattleboro, Burlington, a few others own property. For staffing and budget, we have 2.75 staff. We have 2 full-time, myself, the executive director, and we also have a full-time grant and project manager, and then a 3/4 time office manager. So everything I mentioned, we do with that staff. Our budget is just under about $300,000 a year. The revenue sources for that budget are our state grant, which is about 40% of the budget. We get 20% from other grants that we apply for and doing grant administration fees from that. About 19% is from services such as our revolving loan fund. We make a little off the interest from that. 15% comes from member dues, business members, and about 6% comes from municipal contributions. We have about 10 municipalities that contribute to us. The expense categories are payroll related, which is our biggest category, of course. That's 68% of the budget. 17% for professional services like an accountant, marketing, communications, and our annual audit. About 4% for insurance, 3% for rent, and about 8% for other expenses. So a little bit about some highlights from fiscal 22. During that fiscal year, we made about 111 business visits with different businesses around Addison County. We held 11 events that had about 240 participants. Most of those were remote. They were web-based. Like we did 8 business education webinars in partnership with the chamber. Those were all online webinars. We plan to partner again with the chamber this upcoming year, and we hope to put in some live seminars along with the webinars. But we hope to do about 8 to 12 more webinars this year. We also did 3 workforce development events last year. We did a job fair with the Department of Labor and a bunch of other partners. And we did a financial reality fair at the Hannaford Career Center for high school teens to learn about budgeting and what it means to put together a budget and, figure out how you want to live and then how to pay for it. It was kind of fun. We applied for directly or assisted with grant and loan applications that totaled about $1.8 million in FY22. Those included a $500,000 loan from USDA to recapitalize our revolving loan fund so we can make more loans to businesses in Addison County. We got a $30,000 grant from USDA Rural Development to conduct a feasibility study for the potential Eco Global project that we hope will occur here in Middlebury. We helped get 2 Vermont training program grants totaling $37,000 for 2 Middlebury businesses. We applied for and received 2 building community grants from BGS, Buildings and General Services, totaling $35,000. We helped get 16 SBA technical assistance grants that totaled $64,000 for 16 small businesses here in Addison County. Also, through a partnership with Efficiency Vermont, we brought about $172,000 to Addison County businesses for 13 energy efficiency and renewable energy investments by those businesses. We also administered a $30,000 grant for a regional tourism marketing initiative that's ongoing. It's in partnership with the Addison County Chamber and our 3 downtown organizations. We hired a firm and we did summer, fall, and winter. We're in the middle of the winter campaign right now to hopefully bring tourists here from the Boston, New York, and Albany drive markets That's been a really great project. That was a grant from the state. In partnership with the Regional Planning Commission, we applied for and got a $500,000 grant to fund and to assess brownfields projects. We're working on that together, but the Planning Commission's, leading it. Also, in partnership with the Hannaford Career Center and Collins Aerospace, we received an earmark of $100,000 for a workforce development project that's being developed right now with the Career Center in Collins. That'll give students that go through the program that's designed a leg up to get a job. They'll be prepared to get a job at Collins or other, shops in Addison County that need technicians or, line workers. In addition to all that grant assistance, we also made 3 loans totaling $150,000 for 2 projects from our revolving loan fund. We are still ongoing partnering with the Regional Planning Commission to create a comprehensive economic development strategy. That's pretty much wrapped up. We'll be submitting that to EDA in the next couple of months. And then Adam and I will work to that's a 4-region comprehensive economic development strategy: Chittenden, Addison, Rutland, and Central Vermont. So we're going to take the work from that and develop a regional economic development strategy for just Addison County that will build on the local municipal plans, and it will also complement the larger region plan that hopefully will get approved by EDA. And both of those, especially the SEDS, will in the future bring EDA funding to Addison County. Also, we partner with the Hannaford Career Center, Middlebury College, and many others on the Makery Steering Committee. We participate in that. And we convene the an Addison County Partners Group. That's a group of regional organizations just to get together and coordinate and collaborate and make sure we're not stepping on each other's toes. And, try to work everybody keep everybody rowing the same way in Addison County. And we also convene the Addison County Workforce Alliance. In partnership with the Regional Planning Commission, again, we annually create a regional priority project list. We just wrapped up the newest one, and we'll be submitting that to the Agency of Commerce in January. They use that to score projects against state funding, and they also give it to their federal partners like the Northern Borders Regional Commission, and they use it to score their applications as well. That's a way of them knowing what are the priorities for Addison County. They get one from every county. So we've got, I think, 13 projects submitted to that this year, and we submit our top 10. So that's in the prioritization process right now. Let's see. We also have assisted about a dozen applicants to the new Community Recovery and Revitalization Program. 4 of those are from Middlebury. So hopefully some of those will be successful. We've also assisted Summit Housing with several issues as they've making their way through their process. And we continue to work with Eco Global and Du Bois Dairy on their potential Middlebury projects. They're both in the phase of seeking capital right now. So that's why you haven't heard from them for a little while, but hopefully they're successful in finding capital for their projects, and then they'll be back and they'll start the permitting process and hopefully get those projects underway. So that's a little bit of what we've been doing over the past year. Looking forward, our priorities are, again, to move the Du Bois and Eco Global projects along, get those moving along, continue to work with several projects to identify, apply for, and administer funding resources for projects like Acorn's Food Hub, the Isley Library expansion, the Summit Housing Project, Town Hall Theater expansion, and the Otter Creek Child Care Center, just to name a few. So we're working with all of them to help identify potential resources. If they want the help, we'll help them with the applications. Some of them will end up administering the grants. For example, the Otter Creek Child Care Project and a Porter project that won NBRC funding from last round. They chose us to administer their grants. So we provide oversight of their grants for NBRC, and we get a little fee from that. Also, this upcoming year, we'll be, as I mentioned, finalizing the SEDS and developing a regional economic development strategy. Hopefully advancing workforce development projects like the one that we got funding from Senator Leahy for, and others. Doing work to help strengthen the entrepreneurial ecosystem in Addison County. I met with Matt Dunn from Corey, and hopefully we're going to be taking part in the programs that they offer to work on, the gig economy and entrepreneurial activity in our region. And a project that I'm initiating this year, it'll just get started this year. It'll probably be a 2 or 3 year project before it's accomplished, is I'd like to establish a business incubator for Addison County that might include services, space for office business incubation, but also small light industrial business incubation. One thing we lack in Addison County is a lot of 2,000 to 6,000 square foot space. So we get these great small businesses that are coming out of their garage or graduates from Middlebury College, and they just can't find space to start their business or grow their business. So we'd like to start a incubator space. We'll apply for funding for it, programmatic money, and hopefully get that established in the next couple of years. So that's probably enough. But I'll take questions.
Any questions of Fred?
Fred, there's been a lot of money, obviously, slashing in the last couple of years. Do you anticipate that your grant making ability is going to be constrained coming up?
Yeah, I mean, there's still some ARPA and federal money coming down, trickling down,
Sure.
Especially for infrastructure.
Mm.
A lot of the direct economic development funds have already been dispersed, and the grant sources will be tighter in the upcoming years. But there's like EDA just got another $500 million nationwide, of course, for infrastructure from the infrastructure bill. And so that's kind of still trickling its way down, and we hopefully will be able to take advantage, get some of that. The money that all went to the state for the state to allocate has all been allocated and dispersed. So we did get some of that. We helped the state to review some of the applications in the early years under the CARES Act, actually. So we got paid for that. So all the RDCs helped them so that they could get those applications through quickly and get the money out the door. And each RDC that participated was able to make some fees off of that. And then we have 2 other programs that one of them we designed and presented to the state, and they gave us funds to disperse. That was all for very small businesses to provide technical assistance. So we identified small businesses that needed some kind of technical assistance, like building a website, just for example. And we then identified 300 Vermont businesses that could provide that technical assistance, and then we matched them up.
Sure.
And so that was fall of 2020. We got all that money out the door so 800 Vermont small businesses benefited from that program between the recipients and the technical assistance providers. And then more money came from the SBA to do a similar project. So we repeated that because it worked so well. So none of that none of the SBA money is going directly to us. It's going all to the small businesses, but we're helping, direct businesses to that program, and 16 businesses in Addison County have gotten that technical assistance. So it's been pretty good for the region. But going forward, I think there's going to be less money available. We can help try to get some of that infrastructure money for, municipal infrastructure for the housing project, for example. So we'll be helping identify that and help apply for it if the applicants want our help.
Any other questions of Fred?
We
This is-
have a hand by Judy. Judy?
Are you there, Judy?
I'm here. It's
Okay.
just, can you hear me? Can you see me?
We can,
You don't have to see me, but you need to hear me.
We hear you.
So a couple things. I came in, I signed in, I think it was like 4 minutes late. Community comments or citizens comments is over.
I can get you when we get done with Fred here.
I can't hear you, Brian.
we'll come back to you after we're set with Fred. Unless you have a question for Fred, we'll come back to you for citizens' comments.
So to say thank you for approving all the tree committee applications, I have to wait and say that later.
If that is all you have to say, Judy.
Very clever.
I think you're done, but.
Okay, so I'll wait and say that later.
No, you got it.
The other thing is, Kathleen, you sent me a message because I raised my hand and said, do you have a question? And there was no way I could respond to you that I did have a question.
Okay, you don't have
And it
a,
was about, am I too late to present citizens' comments?
okay,
So again, my citizens' comments was, thank you very much on behalf of the tree committee for approving all our applications. But I missed the presenter that just now presented, because I do have I have a question for that person, but sorry, I apologize, I don't know who that individual is.
this is Fred Kinney. He is the Executive Director of the Addison County Economic Development Corporation.
Okay, so my question is, because you mentioned infrastructure, what is that group doing as far as implementing green infrastructure strategies, techniques, ideas? Where is
Hey, Judy.
where is the organization on that particular, that very specific,
Judy, their economic development, they don't actually do the infrastructure design and stuff. Fred helps with getting grants and aid for that type of that's just one of the many things he's doing. So,
right, but why mention that they're interested in, improving infrastructure if that's not their deal?
Can you hear me?
I think so.
Yeah, I was responding to a question about federal funds. And that's one of the sources of federal funds that is still going to be available is for infrastructure. And like Brian mentioned, we don't implement infrastructure projects. We help the implementers find funding. And I mentioned that we would like to start a business incubator in Addison County, which to me is business infrastructure. So if we did that, we would build it, to the best of our ability and funding to, meet green standards. Like, I don't know if we could do it at zero carbon, but we would try to. I also mentioned, you might have missed it, but I mentioned that we partnered with Efficiency Vermont to bring $172,000 in Efficiency Vermont grants to Addison County that went to businesses that were implementing energy efficiency projects, and by purchasing, efficient, energy efficient machinery and equipment to make their operations more energy efficient. So that's how we get involved in it. And we
And so,
participate in the Addison County Climate Economy Organization.
and that's for towns and businesses and not local residents.
What is?
The grants that you got.
Oh, the grants that we got from Efficiency Vermont, those were grants for businesses.
Okay, so you're not interested or not involved with what's going on with local residents?
Definitely interested. It's not something we work on,
Why?
except to help, because our focus is on business growth and business development. Like I said, we participate in the Addison County Climate Economy Action Center, which does, so we've been helping them trying to find funding, and they are involved with individuals and residents.
Not to pursue the point, but just a parting comment that I think what happens for local residents would be helpful in terms of the business economy.
Totally agree. But we have 2.5 staff, so we have to kind of focus on what we do.
And I think it should be in large part with local residents. Thanks. I'm good.
Thanks, Judy.
Thanks.
Fred, I understand what you do, and I appreciate it from my business aspect when I was in, and this is $7,000 that is more than multiplied. That comes back to the community. It's a no-brainer that we're going to approve it, but just want to let you know we appreciate what you do.
Thank you.
Yeah.
We appreciate your support.
Thanks, Fred. Kurt, hopefully yours is a little easier here.
Guarantee it will be shorter. I'm Kurt Broderson. I'm the executive director of Middlebury Community Television. We have a staff of maybe 2.4, 2 of whom are here tonight. Jim is behind the camera and is the one that you see the most here, although he's hiding behind the computer. Our budget's about $150,000 a year. Probably 80 to 85% of that is Comcast subscribers.
I found this on the web.
That is passed through from subscribers to Comcast to us. We also subcontract with Ilsley Library for the technology coordinator position, which allows technology programs, filming of library events and talks, lots of programs for kids after school or during school vacations through the library. So our annual request has been for $5,000 for the last few years. I don't know when the last time, it was probably the year or two before the pandemic where we came before the board. It's sort of in recognition of filming select board meetings, and we live stream them, which is one of the few events that we live stream. And there's an average of 50 people watching you. More when the pandemic first hit. And that's just the rough average of last year's select board. There's town meeting, obviously, and other special meetings that a select board calls. And we have a board of 7, 3 of whom are appointed by institutions, Ilsley Library, ACSD, and the select board, and Farhad is the select board's representative on our board. So he can steer questions, concerns, priorities from you guys to us. We meet monthly on the second Wednesday of the month. It's always glad to have visitors. But I figured if there were any questions you had for me, that might be the best way.
I've got one that's related to the question I asked Fred. obviously cable is being fragmented. I assume that affects your largest source of funding.
Right. We're always kind of monitoring and slightly worried about people cutting cable subscriptions. There are approximately 2,000 cable subscribers in Vermont. So that's where the bulk, or in Middlebury area, sorry. That's where the bulk of our funding comes from. We're a little sort of protected from national trends in that there aren't many options for internet access or TV otherwise. And Vermont and Middlebury in particular skews a little older. So those customers are less likely to cut their subscriptions, but that is something we're concerned about, keeping an eye on, and other resources like subcontracting with Ilsley for the technology coordinator position does bring in other funding.
Other questions of Kurt? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good question. Where you going?
So those two presentations were part of your annual review of several, usually between 3 and 5 nonprofit agencies per your Health and Human Services appropriation policy. Next up will be Tri-Valley Transit, and they'll be coming next week. If you have a desire to talk to any of your other nonprofit agencies, no one has requested an increase for funding. That usually gets them on our radar screen for a visit. So no one else has been invited at this point, but if you'd like to invite another agency, let me know.
Okay, thank you, Kathleen. We also need to look at warning a public hearing to review our draft budget. And we're looking at warning it for next Tuesday.
Okay, so that has been warned already by the board. Sorry for that duplicate.
Okay,
It's been published.
I was
and
just thinking that's a little bit tight.
warned. Yeah.
Okay, so the other thing is a review of the town meeting warning draft. And the first draft of the 2024 town meeting warning, including the town finance department's proposal to shift the town's property tax schedule from a 3-bill cycle to a 2-bill cycle. And did everybody read the memo from staff on the rationale for shifting the billing cycle from 3 to 2? It certainly seems to make sense. I didn't realize they dealt with so many inquiries and that they had to reissue new invoices. That would seem to be quite confusing on my.
It seems like we have tried to make this change
At the last
at
one,
least once,
couple
maybe
years ago.
twice in town meetings, and the community has not supported it.
Yeah.
So I just think we should spend a little time to make sure we do a good presentation.
I do agree, but our rationale for changing it at the time was a little bit different. I think it had to do with
COVID,
was it COVID or was it the
the downtown construction, I think.
We didn't change it for that.
We had the reappraisal.
valuation? I
We
thought
had
it was
the
a reappraisal.
reappraisal, and then we had the year that we tried to change it, it was for the cause of the downtown bridge construction project. That is exactly why I asked Nicholas to prepare this memo so that we would have close at hand our rationale. And I think he provides a convincing argument on it. We did not clearly articulate the impact that it has on our disadvantaged folks that are least able to pay their taxes. Causes them a great deal of anxiety to get a big tax bill before their homestead is recognized by the state.
I'm still concerned that the payment's going to be higher if you're doing 2 installments, right?
Of course.
So I'm concerned about that, if people are going to be comfortable or not.
It does point out that you can budget and they could come in and find out what's an estimation of their taxes and start making payments. And I think that's all they're getting if they haven't had their homestead reduction applied, then they're just getting an estimate. So
Right.
I don't know. When we did it previously, we did it for a one-time, one-off, and it was supported. This would be more of a permanent thing, and I do agree. I think we need to walk through the rationale, but listening to the rationale, it seems silly that we bill before it's an accurate tax bill.
Yeah.
I find that
Maybe,
baffling.
sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Maybe part of the conversation needs to be, like was mentioned in the memo. But I know the town offers people who are interested in a payment plan as well. In addition to a bill pay service through your banking institution, I know in the past, I'm assuming it's still the same, you could call Jackie and make arrangements to set up a payment plan. I know that adds a little bit more burden to that department, but if people are concerned about it, there are options, and I think just making it clear what those options would be and the rationale. I feel like when we talked about it in the past, we've talked a little bit about this homestead issue and that the town has not supported it. So I want to just make sure we do a good job in supporting the case and getting the community support.
Well, we might even get an article in the Addy Indy to start the discussion.
That's a good idea.
I don't-
Our very capable reporter, John Flowers, is in our audience
I
tonight.
figured John would be there. If not, he watches it afterwards. So John, we're looking for a little support on explaining this, and we'll see how what issues come up. I do feel like it's a little easier. It'll be less work and more productive work for our finance office to be working with people to develop a budget than to try to explain incorrect tax bills.
Yes, yes. Productive work.
So are there any questions on that at this point?
And just to note that today we learned that the Middlebury Union High School auditorium is available as proposed in the morning. They have their usual play rehearsals going on, but they will work with us so that we can be there.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Okay. Next is the Middlebury Diversity Report by Tabitha and Lisa.
I think we're running a little bit early. They are not.
They're not in
here
there yet? Well, why don't we go on to the Richards here?
That will be a long.
How long is your presentation, Richard? 15 minutes? Okay, let's start with you. And Howard's with you? Okay.
Hello.
Good evening, Howard.
Hi, how's everyone? Thanks for adding this on the agenda for tonight. So it was 2 years ago this month that the select board adopted a resolution for the town to commit to doing what we can to reduce the carbon emissions of of operations by 80% by 2030.
Show the first slide for us.
Sure.
And then, so I think given the weather we've seen in the last couple of weeks, I think we all are on the same page when it comes to the dire state that our climate is in right now. And that it is essential that we do what we can to meet these goals. Every little bit helps. So I won't get on my soapbox to promote that, since I think the fact that you adopted the resolution is a testament to where you stand on this. So I don't want to take too much time. I want to give Richard as much time as possible, but I do want to thank him for all the number crunching that he's been doing. He's our data guru, and there's a lot of work that goes into this and trying to maintain the baseline and where we are. As you'll see, maybe, and I don't want to steal too much of his thunder, but maybe we haven't made as much progress as we'd like to have made to this point, but we do have a lot of future projects that we think will help get us there by 2030. But let me hand it over to Richard so he can give you the details of where things are at this point, and then he can answer your questions. Thank you.
So hi, Mr. Chairman, Select Board. I'm Richard Hopkins. I'm a member of the Middlebury Energy Committee. 3 years ago, we brought you the suggestion that you adopt the resolution that you did adopt. And in the run-up to that, you all held our feet to the fire and you said, so really, is this practical? Can we do this? Is this doable? Several of you were here then, several of you were not on the board at that time. And we did some further investigating and came up with 3 strategies, which if we are able to follow them, we believed would enable us to get an 80% reduction in what was then 10 years. It's now 8 years away, our goal. So the 3 main strategies are decarbonize the electricity, electrify everything you can, and in the meantime, and as an important strategy, decrease use of fossil fuels wherever you can. Even if you can't yet move from fossil fuels to electricity, you can at least reduce your use of fossil fuels. So those are the 3 sort of high-level strategies. Green Mountain Power is doing our job for us in terms of decarbonizing the electricity. Over the time period that we've been working on this, the last 3 or 4 years, they have gone from a low carbon supplier of electricity to an almost zero carbon supplier of electricity. And you'll see that as we go through this. And we've also, as a town, increased how much locally generated solar electricity we buy. Kathleen recently gave me showed me how to find the information about what we're getting from the Acorn array in Bristol, which is being applied against water pump number 3 electricity use. Electrify everything. It means that strategy means that every time we have a piece of fossil fuel equipment that is reaching the end of its life, of its useful life, it needs to be replaced. We need to, if we possibly can, replace it with an electric equivalent. Because our electricity is so very low carbon, every time we switch from fossil fuels to electricity, we are essentially going from significant greenhouse gas emissions to zero, or very close to zero greenhouse gas emissions. So this is about vehicles and about building heat. Those are primarily the 2 big categories. And there exist options, non-fossil fuel burning options for both of those. There are more options now than there were 3 years ago. And 3 years from now, there will be even more options available. But one of the challenges for you all and for us is to figure out when does it make sense to wait to make a conversion, because the better equipment or cheaper equipment will be available 2 years or 3 years from now than are available now. And when does it make sense to move ahead now, so to be early adopters and actually make the switch now. So can I have the next slide? I think what I want to focus on that second bullet. If the electricity is really carbon free, as we believe it is, then saving electricity, although it saves you money, doesn't save you any greenhouse gas emissions. Doesn't matter how much electricity you use from a greenhouse gas point of view, if it is carbon free. You can use as much as you want, or as little as you want. So saving on electricity really doesn't get you very far. And I'll show you the data from the town that support that. The next slide, please. There are various things you can do in the meantime. The the staff of the town have been very positive about using biodiesel when they can in place of regular fossil fuel diesel. This is fuel that is 20% biodiesel and 80% fossil fuel diesel, but it's an improvement over pure fossil fuel. Weatherizing, adjusting thermostats. There's an opportunity with the wastewater treatment plant to replace fossil fuels with the output of the anaerobic digester. We'll be talking to the infrastructure committee next week in some detail about our analysis of that opportunity. And then also related to the wastewater treatment plant is if in future we switch to a process that doesn't use lime as a drying agent and heating agent, then we can save a great deal on greenhouse gas emissions. Lime is manufacturing lime from limestone or from carbonate rock releases a great deal of carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. And so we actually didn't appreciate that until a few months ago. So we're readjusting our thinking about this. The next slide. What I'm going to be talking to you about, the data all come from the Treasurer's office. It's a matter of compiling information from the bills that we get for gasoline, diesel, natural gas, fuel oil, propane, electricity. The Treasurer's job, of course, is mostly to keep track of the money. And so it's just a little bit extra work for them to keep track of the amount of fuel purchased as well as the dollars. And they've been very helpful in doing that with us. And then if we know how many gallons of propane we use, there are known coefficients for how much CO2 does each gallon of propane release when you burn it. And those are well known. Next slide. So this is the big picture. This is a 4 data points, starting from 18, 19, 19, 20, 20, 21, 21, 22. So next slide. The good news is that we've had a 45% reduction in estimated releases of carbon dioxide equivalents over the 4-year period. So we're almost halfway to the goal with very little effort on our part. And this is what I predicted when I talked to you all 4 years ago, that Green Mountain Power would continue to make their electricity more and more carbon free. And we would benefit in doing this analysis and tracking our progress, we would see that. And that's what we see here. The bad news is that all of that reduction so far is attributable to that lower carbon GMP electricity. We need to reduce a lot more to get to 80%. And the longer we wait, the steeper we're going to have to make the steeper the hill that we'll have to climb to get there. Next slide, if I may. So this is estimated greenhouse gas releases in tons by fuel type and by year from our operations. So the big blue section of the bar is the electricity. And it has gone down dramatically because Green Mountain Power has gotten even more carbon out of their electricity. The other fuels, like natural gas, fuel oil and propane, diesel and gasoline, are essentially unchanged over the 4-year period. Next slide shows you those 4 liquid fuels with the electricity removed. And there's some year-to-year variation, but basically we're looking at a flat pattern over the 4 years for those fuels. Next slide. So this is a 10-year or 12-year perspective here. That blue line on the left you saw before in one of the earlier slides, and the asterisk in the lower right is where we're trying to get to. The next slide. So those green bars are one way to get there. If we reduce our greenhouse gas production by 13% each year compared to the previous year, we will, after 8 years, get to our goal. I mean, nothing in real life is that smooth, but that's just to show you that what such a trajectory might look like. It might go faster in the earlier years and slower in the later years, or vice versa, but that's what it would look like. Next slide. So we can't reduce our greenhouse gas emissions from the town's operations very much from reducing electricity use because it's already almost at zero. In fact, what we really need to be doing is increasing our electricity use of this very low carbon electricity that we have as we transition from propane or fuel oil or gasoline or diesel to electricity. So our electric bills will actually go up if we follow this strategy, while our bills for fuel oil and propane and natural gas go down. Okay. The next slide. So here's, I mean, just to reiterate, you know, you tell them what you're going to tell them, and then you tell them, and then you tell them what you told them. And this is what I told you, that we need to decarbonize electricity, which is in progress. We need to replace fossil fuel equipment with electric equivalents wherever we can. And we need to continue to invest in efficiency and conservation where we can't yet transition to electrical equivalents. So I think that's it. Last slide, I think. One more.
Questions?
Yeah. So this is just to bring us back to the resolution that you all passed 3 years ago. At the time, I was proposing that we try to do this in 8 years by 2028. And people said, "Well, why 8 years?" And I said, "Well, because that year I will turn 80, and there's a good chance I'll live that long, but I don't know about beyond that. So, you know, 2030 is pushing it in terms of my lifespan. I really hope that we can make. I want to live to see us meet that goal." And I also want to thank Laura for setting the stage for us tonight. You know, you all make lots and lots of decisions on behalf of the citizens of the town, and you consider lots of things. You know, and you have to balance competing uses of the funds, and you're volunteers just like us. You know, and you're trying to do a responsible job. You know, we don't have a specific ask here. We're not asking you to adopt a position or take a particular decision today. We just want to reemphasize the importance of considering this transition to low carbon fuels every time you make decisions in a broad range of domains. So thank you. I'm open for questions. I'm not sure how it is.
Any questions of Richard?
Yeah, so I appreciate the 20% biodiesel, but I think that's going to be one of our stickiest wickets. Is we've got a lot of heavy vehicles
Right.
which use a lot of diesel.
There's no electric alternatives.
Yeah, at this point, there's no early adoption option there, and it looks like our diesel usage would be equal to roughly our entire energy usage in 8 years.
If we
Today's
don't,
diesel usage.
no, there are technical limitations to using 20% biodiesel, and we have an expert in the audience, and maybe more than one, on doing this. The fuel often doesn't do well in very cold temperatures. And so, no, it's a spring, summer, fall alternative at best. You know, newer diesel vehicles run better on biodiesel than old diesel vehicles did. Okay, and so there's technical progress in those areas as well. And I don't think we should write off the possibility of availability of electric heavy equipment. There are manufacturers, niche manufacturers that are starting to come out with such vehicles, and 2 or 3 years from now, you may be surprised at how much is on the market.
Yeah.
When you see the progress that's been made to this point, you know, it only accelerates if you go with Moore's law and
Sure.
like that, and then in a few years.
Well, and
it could be there.
it may not be electric too. It may be other alternative fuels, but there's a lot of work being done on it at present. And, you know, we have 8 more years. So stick with us, Richard.
Well, you will hear from me again. I plan to come again to show this to you all a year from now and 2 years from now, as
Excellent.
long as I can.
And that is part of the resolution adopting it, was for us to come each year to
Yeah.
give you a
Good.
progress report.
No, it's hard stuff.
Well, we appreciate it. And it does look encouraging that even if it was GMP that brought a lot of those cuts to us, we have in the last few years shifted a number of our lighter vehicles. And this year we didn't do that for several reasons, primarily availability and trying to balance dependability as they start working on it. But it's, as we recognize, it's still early in the process of electrification of these vehicles. So
And I think we'd like to come back in the near future with some proposals for things that we could do as a town to help get us there.
okay.
This isn't the presentation to do that. So.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening.
We do have a hand.
We have a hand up. Okay.
Hi, Judy.
Yep. So my question is, Richard, to what degree does local airport or airplane traffic affect local greenhouse gas emissions? Because from whatever I am seeing, it's considerably more than like running your car from point A to point B. And so the idea of increasing, even considering increasing local air traffic to Middlebury Municipal Airport is not in line with what you're saying. Can you speak to that?
Thank you, Judy. It's important. This presentation is just about the greenhouse gases that are produced by the operations of the town of Middlebury, the library, the police department, the fire department, the water department, the sewer department. That's the focus of the presentation that I just made. It certainly is true that aircraft are significant contributors to greenhouse gases, both the most small airplanes like at the Middlebury Airport and commercial aircraft.
And should we not be considering that?
Sure, I mean it's an important, but it's not relevant to this particular analysis unless the town is considering buying an airplane. If the town was to buy an airplane or a helicopter, then this would be very much on our
But in a
minds.
more holistic approach to this, would it not be wise to consider not only what the town of Middlebury specifically contributes, but what private enterprise contributes, what private car owners contribute?
Yeah, so
It's a broader, I'm looking for a broader assessment.
yes, and if you, putting on a different hat, I'm a member of the board of the Climate Economy Action Center of Addison County, CEAC, CEAC. If you go to CEAC's website, ceacac.org, ceacact.org, and look for the greenhouse gas inventory for Addison County, you'll see an analysis that takes account of a much wider range of sources of greenhouse gases.
And all I'm saying is, I think the Middlebury Select Board needs to take that into consideration.
Okay.
Thank you, Judy.
Thank you, Richard.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you, Richard. And the rest of the Energy Committee.
Yeah. Howard, your entire committee. Are they with us now?
They are not. They being Tabitha and Lisa. I did see, looking back at my correspondence with Tabitha, she's recovering from a surgery, so perhaps she was unable to attend tonight.
Okay. If they aren't able to attend, we'll reschedule it.
And it would be good for Lindsay to be here. As well.
Yeah, absolutely. So maybe it's the right way to go. So Chief, there you are. We're ready for you, Chief.
Ahead of schedule.
We're a little ahead of schedule because I think we've slipped one of our major events.
Okay, I'm just coming from another meeting, so rushing around.
You didn't see me waving to you while you were driving the Zamboni tonight.
No.
It's got to focus like a laser. You can't be waving at the
Zamboni's not
crowd.
for-
I was jealous.
Chief is driving a Zamboni?
Yeah. I should
Really?
have taken a picture so I could have shown you all.
Wow.
Okay, noise ordinance. We had made some, I think you probably have a copy of the latest version of it. Kind of cleaned it up a little bit, got rid of the unnecessary language and just boiled down to what it is. Just an attempt to kind of keep things calm in the face of noise and keeping it as simple as possible. I try to stay away from a lot of things which complicate this ordinance. We've followed the recommendation by making the quiet hours 10 p.m. on weekdays and 11 p.m. on weekends. Cleaned up some other minor language things, like there was a comment here about authorized commercial trash holders, which kind of left the door open for unauthorized commercial trash holders to make noise anytime they wanted. So we cleaned that kind of language up. Again, it's a civil ordinance. It's fairly simple and straightforward. The one questions that I did get, primarily from Fred and a couple others, were activities permitted under public assemblages or other licenses. Like we added that word in there. That's really not something this ordinance is going to do. If that is something the board elected to do, is to have some kind of licensing for a waiver on the provisions of the noise ordinance for activities. That's something the board would do outside the ordinance, either as an amendment to the public assemblage ordinance or other. But this is strictly for if it's loud noise and the police go, they check it out. If they confirm it, then it's a violation.
Now, I wasn't here for the meeting when you reviewed it and sent it back with Chief. Does this fulfill the board's requests on that discussion?
Andy, I think I straightened out some of the language you
Yeah, you
sent a
did.
question on.
It reads much better now.
That's the magic of cut and paste.
Uh-huh.
The bad language goes with it.
I have a quick question on section 201.
Yes.
On Friday, Saturday, and special holidays, and it said New Year's Eve and 4th of July. Are those examples or just those 2 days?
That's from the original ordinance, and it's
I'm just wondering why just those 2 holidays? Why not Memorial Day?
that's a good question, primarily because there's noisy events that normally take place on those 2 holidays. Either fireworks, which sometimes are still going after 10 at night on a
Okay.
weeknight. New Year's Eve, obviously, we don't get the kind of noise that we used to get on New Year's Eve, probably when
Yep.
this ordinance was written. But I guess this leaves it open for the board to designate a special holiday for some event, such as the bridge opening here 12, 13 years ago, and some of the other events that happen that might be going late at night.
So instead of special, can you say, for example, New Year's Eve and 4th of July? So,
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's not an issue for me. Again, we want this to be as straightforward as possible, that somebody
Exactly,
picking
yeah.
up knows what the parameters are.
Ken, one of the concerns is the college has a big concern with the 11 o'clock. Is there some way that is there some way right now that if we enact this ordinance, that the college could request a deviation from this and have an event that goes to 1 a.m?
We would need to create
Right.
such an event.
That's what I was leading to. Or can it be put in here?
I tried to keep that out of the noise ordinance because I wanted to limit this to a noise ordinance of what the violation is.
Right.
It's like if you have a speed ordinance, it says if you go this fast, you're violating the speed ordinance, period, the end. Doesn't make exceptions for police cars or things like that, or emergency vehicles. That's somewhere else in the statute, that provision. So I think this is simply a matter of either amending the public assemblage ordinance to include a provision for that.
Private assemblage?
Because a public assemblage the college doesn't have a public assemblage
Unless they do it.
unless they use it in the middle of town.
If you read the ordinance, there really is, it is covered. It defines a public assemblage, but it also defines a couple of other things in there that aren't really public assemblages. It's kind of, again, that's a language issue with the ordinance. You read it and, it gets into first, second, and third class permits. It defines what a public ordinance is, public assemblage ordinance, but then it defines, as you go through this, a bunch of other things. This also includes restaurants and entertainment permits and things like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
The
it's
second class permit does not include the public place
right.
clause that the first
Right.
class does.
Yeah, this
So we could perhaps use that for private assemblage.
this ordinance has grown over the years as issues come up, and the ordinance gets amended to deal with those kind of issues. But this is probably the more appropriate place for that kind of language. This is the permitting ordinance, the conditional permitting ordinance.
Oh, you're right.
So the first class is in a public place and second class.
Well, you guys are reading that. If Fred's got a question.
What I was trying to do was
Okay, perfect. Yeah.
for Tom, I wrote an email to Tom. I didn't really write the select board. That included the packet. And what I was trying to do was to solve the problem that there's no authority for licensing
I've been reading this over
on property or on public rights of way.
Emergency
It's
vehicles.
very obscure. The town only has entertainment
Snow up.
permits for like two brothers, Mr. Upson and Waverly Inn, and it doesn't cover what you need to cover. And just take the parts that I tried to put in there to squarely give the college, the authority to license the college for their events either on a season or semester basis, license the festivals and business things, for their event series, and then deal with residential areas separately. They aren't bidding the college against the residential neighborhoods in terms of this quiet hours thing. That was what I was trying to achieve. And Tom, I had talked with Tom this afternoon. He prefers to have some sort of separate future ordinance authorizing licensing. But this is all about noise, and that's the only thing you'd be doing it for. So I don't know. I don't understand separating the two. But again, I'm trying to support Tom in this. And so whatever I put in your packet in there, it's not effective for the board to try to write an ordinance here. All right. So I just want to apologize for any confusion by that being included in your packet. I totally support Tom for a lot of years. Just wanted to try to explain the predicament we're in, where we don't have clear authority for licensing. Public assemblage ordinance has these restrictions in it, even though our charter authority doesn't really restrict it as much as that ordinance does. I think that's all I'm going to say. Try to address what was in the packet.
John?
John Teddy. As a resident who's come to you before on this issue, I want to say first that I appreciate the work that's been done here. I think that all of the effort is good at focusing on the residential neighborhoods as is done in these ordinance amendments. Understand that, of course, there are two real parts to this. One is the first paragraph is really the whole essence of the ordinance, stating that it's out of order to create a disturbance which is troublesome to a neighborhood. And then it goes in the second part, in the 201, specifically saying that a time exceeded for any activities would be out of bounds. But in fact, any time that the disturbance is there. It's a matter of subjective enforcement. And in that subjective enforcement, the examples have been removed, but they were only examples. So really, I would hope that the town would recognize that the independent arbiter, in fairness, would say that the standard of the neighborhood is the norm of the neighborhood. The customary atmosphere and life there, the customary operations and activities. And the things that are not in line with that should be complained about and should be controlled. Now, we look back in my neighborhood, and as I've raised before, the good example of good citizenship has always been the Swift House Inn, over many years, of holding many events and always keeping those events in check so that they are well attended, well enjoyed, and they're not a bother to the neighborhood. And certainly there's no reason why other things can't be done or should not be done. And I would hope that they would. But we want to be mindful of protecting the neighborhood while allowing people to have a reasonable time. And I think that these changes and the time limits are certainly reasonable in residential neighborhoods. 10 o'clock on weekdays, 11 o'clock on weekends and the special holiday. That makes sense to me. So I would encourage you to adopt.
Okay, and I think we've had this pointed out to us by Chief many times throughout our discussion of this, is that it is subjective and it can be, he gets actually the majority of his aren't hours based, it's noise based complaints. And yeah, and so I think they're very familiar with being the honest broker in those cases and resolving that within the neighborhoods. And I think our police department does a really nice job of that. So are you comfortable with the ability to handle the few events at the college?
I do not know why they couldn't apply for a Class 2 assemblage permit that would be an event as specified here for exemption.
That's under exemptions in paragraph B, isn't it?
Yes.
And not under the purview of town shall also be exempt dress for event licenses. So isn't that what we're saying that?
This adds event licenses as a possible other category of licensed event beyond the existing public assemblage license.
I was groping for the correct language in that part. Trying to point out this was the issue, that there may be some other things that the select board needs to do to fulfill that end of it.
Okay, I agree with it if that's it. So just one other quick question under emergency vehicles operated by fire, police, and rescue agencies and public works or public utility vehicles when used during snow operations or emergency repairs. So a house fire or a police chase there's problems there.
No, those are exemptions.
No,
Okay, those are exemptions.
I think the way that we were both reading it,
Am I wrong?
fire and police are separate. Public works
Is there a comment?
is for the removal of snow or repairs.
Okay. All right. Maybe a comma there.
Yeah.
Got that.
I think it's
It was just
fine.
a reason I was reading as one sentence.
You didn't see Bill Cronin's edit. That's what he said.
Yeah, in the late unpleasantness, there was some noise going on
all
throughout
good.
the night,
Yes, there was.
trying to keep power going and things
That was a
like that.
pleasant noise. We listened for it all night long.
Fred?
I just, you're taking a public assemblage ordinance that was written in the 60s for protests against the war back then, trying to do things with it that are challenging. I mean, at the foundation of this ordinance, it only applies to things on a public place, section 101. Public place is defined. And then the class of permits doesn't supersede that. So, whether you do it now or at some point in the future, you just write a sentence in that says, gives yourself the authority under ordinance to license the college events on the college campus, institutional zone, college campus, pick some easily definable place. Just do it squarely and not have people try to guess what's under the police's purview right now or not.
Yeah.
You know, it's just a
I think
your way.
point
Give your
taken.
authority.
And just out of curiosity, is that a fact that was written for Vietnam War protesters?
The era that was enacted.
Okay, all right.
That's what was going on.
Interesting. Are there any other comments or questions on this?
I think Heather said that at our last meeting, taking note of different noise ordinance, like all the tickets that we're handing out or the houses that we're going to. What's our procedure for like following up, tracking that, seeing if there's repeat offenders, seeing the outcome? Do we do anything like that?
Yeah, it's a matter of record.
Okay.
It's all recorded at the police station.
I'd love to keep note of this, like once, if the noise ordinance passes, what the outcomes are, where we're seeing it, if there's repeat complaints coming from certain households and from certain people.
What has helped us is the nuisance ordinance. We had a troubled residence over here on Cross Street. The owner of the house lives in Massachusetts and was very interested to making sure that there wouldn't be any further problems there. And she interceded and took care of that. And that problem has pretty much gone away. And we've had, over the years, a number of properties where we've had the same things. This is a new one, the ones that we have here on North Pleasant Street, Weber Street and some of the other places that we've had meetings with the landlords who expressed an interest in taking care of the problem. Some just sold and get out of the business altogether. Others were more proactive in reducing problems.
Yeah. It'll allow us to let data kind of drive further decisions, seeing if we really do need to rewrite another policy and pass something later on, or if this kind of covers everything that we're doing.
We have a policy on the noise ordinance. Obviously, the more complaints we get in a single space, in a single time, in a short period of time, the tolerance for those kind of things go down and the enforcement goes up. It's a one-time thing. You tell them to quiet down, they quiet down, you're fine. You know, just they made noise and it goes away. But sometimes we have some hardcore cases where we have to do other things, but that's why we keep the record for our own follow-up.
Do you actually write any tickets, or it doesn't come to that?
We haven't had, since it's been since we've had a civil ordinance last year.
Okay.
So, as I said, we've already got arrangements for restorative justice and some of the less hardcore cases to go through restorative justice. If not, they just go to court.
So if there's no more comments,
We have a couple of hands raised.
we do. Okay.
Kevin McGrath.
Hello there, Kevin McGrath, 51 North Pleasant Street.
Hi, Kevin.
I asked that you both could turn back the Friday and Saturday night noise violation timeline by a few hours. You know, the existing weekend noise ordinance at 1 a.m., it's almost like it's a no noise ordinance at all, it seems like. I know I couldn't believe it when I first started reading about this in order to try to research the relevant town ordinances. But rolling back the timeline to 11 p.m., I think it sends the right message that noise and disruption are taken seriously. And the 1 a.m. timeline is simply an enabler, not a deterrent. To me, it's no coincidence that the college parties that I have to endure break up between 12:30 and 1 a.m. And the 12:30 and 1 a.m. time is kind of the worst of it. In the wee hours of the morning, ending in a crescendo and cloaked in darkness, except for the immediate neighbors like myself. So rolling the timeline back will no doubt bring back some level of civility to the neighborhoods with a message that sort of makes sense. And I thank you for considering changing the Friday, Saturday night noise ordinance to 11 p.m. And thanks for taking my comments.
You're welcome, Kevin. Thank you.
We have a hand from Judy.
Judy, you with us?
So what about a noise ordinance in East Middlebury, along Schoolhouse Hill Road, Burnham Drive,
Same town.
Yeah.
and in the airport? What about a noise ordinance?
Same town.
It's the
This
same,
covers that whole area.
yeah, this is for
I
all of
can't
Middlebury.
hear you.
The ordinance that you should have read in our packet is the ordinance that we're adopting for the entire town.
No night ops over here either, except for the
Oh, it doesn't
helicopters
include
at
East
8:30.
Middlebury.
It includes East Middlebury.
So what's being done about the noise related to the airport in East Middlebury?
I don't know, Judy. Everything seems to bring back to the airport with you tonight, so I don't know.
Brian, it's gonna come back again and again and again.
Yeah, well, at some point, I'm tired of hearing it.
Well, we might be tired of hearing it, but the question is going to keep coming up. What's being done about the noise in East Middlebury related to the airport?
What noise?
What's being done?
So how many times have you called and made a complaint about the airport to the police department so
Heather,
they can investigate it?
there is no way at this point to make direct contact with the V-Trans at the airport.
You didn't listen to my
There's no
question.
way to make contact.
You didn't listen to my question. This noise ordinance is for the town of Middlebury and is enforced by the Middlebury Police Department. So I'm asking
Yeah.
how many times you've called the police department to make a complaint about noise at the airport.
Our instructions were to call V-Trans. Do you want us to call the local police? Let me know if that's the case, and we will call again and again and again. All you have to do, Heather, is say, that's what you need to do.
I wasn't trying to say what you should or shouldn't do. I've asked how many times you've tried that as an option.
That's not an option, because the Middlebury Police do not have jurisdiction.
Right.
Okay.
And,
So
and
the
my,
question.
and my point, Judy, is we're working on a sound ordinance in areas that we have jurisdiction and trying to get business done, and you keep interrupting for stuff that is not applicable to our current discussion. And it's getting frustrating. Yeah, absolutely.
This keeps coming up, and the questions have not been addressed. And I will wait till this comes on to the agenda. But the select board has not addressed these questions or concerns. And so I'm done. It's
Thank
all
you.
good.
Good.
I'll wait.
Thank you.
You need a motion?
Pleasure of the board on this
Do we
particular.
have to warn a public hearing again, or do we,
This is
we're
now.
good?
No, we're good. We can move
I'll
on.
make the amendment that Farad suggested by
Yeah.
putting in the word,
Catherine
for
wrote it
example.
down too, yeah.
From the beginning of
So-
change.
I'll move to
Is that better
approve.
than identifying which holidays count?
It just has two holidays
Those are
on
the only
it.
ones that are really after dark. I mean, they're the ones that
No, Memorial Day, people can have parties at night, so what stops from, well, if you are specifying only 2 days,
Groundhog Day.
this
I don't know.
ordinance covers it. Now, then exempt every day.
I think the intent was that those are the ones you typically have fireworks.
Right.
Right.
So,
I'll make a motion to approve the proposed amendments to the ordinance for the regulation of noise.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Are there any comments on the motion? Hearing none. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Okay,
Thanks, chief.
thank you.
So this will be subject to a final public hearing
Yes.
on those changes at your January 24th meeting.
Okay.
So that was my question. Do we need to warn another public, do we need to make a motion to warn another public hearing or not?
I'll, based on your motion now, I'll
Okay.
take care of that.
Oh, gosh, we're never going to get to 11.
Okay.
So,
And the last item, they didn't come on, right?
Clarification, did you just approve this?
We approved it. Well, I'm understanding now that it's got to go back before a final public hearing for final approval. Because we made changes to it.
And so that would come up in
The 24th.
24?
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome, John. And they did not come on, right? Tabitha.
They did not.
Okay, so we will slide that officially to a future meeting. And the next item is the airport master plan and the upcoming close of the state public comments period. And so the master plan presentation was given, and the select board has had an opportunity to see that as well as I know at the last select board meeting, there was a lot of airport comments. And so this is an opportunity for the board, if there's something that you would like to make sure that we haven't already. We've already sent one letter. Is there anything that the board would like to do differently? Or add anything to that letter? Ross.
Thanks. So it's been brought up a few times this evening, the importance of our energy use in the climate situation. And if you look at the master plan, the latest draft that's on the website, is one paragraph, 2 sentence addressing climate. And it basically glosses over it saying, greenhouse gas emissions are estimated to be like 1/10 of 1% or something. And that's all they said. You might want to consider suggesting that the master plan for the future and how to address climate. And simple things like trying to be sure that there are fuel services available for the alternative fuel airplanes that may be coming down the pipe, making even just electric vehicle stations for cars. None of that is even being apparently considered in the draft. It seems to me that that's something the board could do. It's a little outside the focus that you've had so far of the municipality, but it's a way to help maybe start to move that needle in the wider community.
It seems like a reasonable request.
It's the first time we've heard that.
That's the first time we've
First
heard it.
time we've heard that.
I brought it up at their meeting, but that was whenever that last meeting they had, it was here in this room.
Yeah,
I was
several
here.
weeks
I must
ago.
have slept through that part. Could have been.
John?
I'm here representing Sean Flynn.
Yeah.
And Sean has an application in for a new multi-unit hangar at the airport. I wanted, since there are questions raised at times of whether there is demand for hangars and a demand for user opportunities at the airport, that in fact those demands are being represented by Sean's application for a 5-unit, 17,000 square foot T hangar there at the south end of the airport, which will involve a significant investment and allow customers to participate as with spaces for their plane, and those spaces are in demand. I can also speak for Sean, having worked with him now for some time, that Sean will endorse the efforts to improve efficiencies, climate control measures, and so forth, to get the best efficiency and climate protection possible. And with the application, we are also applying to bring a new water main down to the south end of the airport, which will also enhance fire protection for that and for other property. And so there are significant demands there.
John, I had a question on that from a citizen today, and I can see where that hangar is on the master plan. Is that where it's at right now? I could not find where an application, an actual application has been submitted by Sean yet.
The application is in limbo with town planning.
Okay.
Because of the inability to act on that application due to the master plan renewal process being
Okay.
in the works. So we're hanging.
Okay. No, that's kind of where I thought it was. And I just wanted to make sure I gave correct information.
Yes, yes. And it would be immediately south of the last T hangar that exists to the south there, just on the other side of the access road there.
Yeah, I saw it on the master plan design.
Right.
Yeah.
And as I said, it's a 5-unit condominium arrangement hangar. So 5 separate units in one building, which is 17,000 square feet.
Okay. Ross, would you have a sentence that we could request that would address your particular request?
I did not come prepared with an example for you, I'm sorry to say.
Well, we're talking, if you could think of one that we could consider.
Well, also, construction at the airport is not only dependent upon this master plan, but on Act 250 review and approval. Of course, Act 250 has that provision built right into its criteria, so that might be the place to deal with that as well.
Although I did happen to notice today, H2, a bill is, looks like it's going to be introduced this session in the legislature. It actually removes all hangar development at airports from Act 250 oversight. That's what the bill is. Now, I don't know if it's going to get any traction to go through, but that may be coming. At least that's what this one bill is.
News to me, and I don't know why.
Brian, I just got a comment from our viewers at home that folks not using the microphones, no matter how clearly and loudly they're trying to speak, are not intelligible.
Okay. So she gets my goat, but this would be the time where Judy could bring that particular concern that she has up, because it has to do more with the airport. And that would be a reasonable request. I will tell you that we've had a number of complaints, and we've given them several different ways to address noise issues. I think if we're asking for something, a clear line of communication for when there is an issue is probably a reasonable request for the town, because it does get frustrating. I mean, I used to deal with a lot of them before I was even on the select board, because people knew that I had a connection with the guard, and it happens to be a lot of the issues are with the guard, and they can be addressed. They do it typically out of trying to be good neighbors when they're training down there, but we don't have, we clearly do not have authority over their maneuvers, and neither does the state, but the state knows when they're in there.
Judy also had concerns about other areas that she was talking about, not just the airport. She was talking about East Middlebury, Schoolhouse Hill Road.
Well, she took it right to the airport, so.
So she does have her hand up. If, just let me know when the good time is for her, if any.
I don't,
Yes.
Um,
Come
Use a
forward.
microphone, sorry.
Which one?
Anyone?
Okay.
Yeah, Doug Gurney. I'm just wondering, she was not specific at all about her complaints about noise at the airport. There's no lights out there. There's no operations at night unless it's the guard training.
I'm guessing it's the guard.
It could be. She needs to be more specific about that so that before it could be addressed, chief. It's just a random thought.
Yeah. Okay, thanks, Doug.
the other thing I think just, you know, a clear line of making a complaint. I think what residents are looking for is resolution to what they consider the problem. And just being able to make a complaint doesn't, you know, like it's more about getting a response to the complaint as well, I think. So I think if we put something in writing, needs to be a little more specific.
And I think with a timely manner. Like, I think a lot of the complaints were, I got a response.
After
and
5 months.
Yeah, after a really long time, ahead of a meeting, out of like good PR instead of genuine willingness to collaborate.
And I think that's where the you know, if it's the guard, they have the right to do it, and but they tend to be, if you use the right channels, they tend to be reasonable about moving their operation if you're interfering with something. But you know, that's one of the reasons why they use the Middlebury Airport, is because it's dark. And so, Laura.
I was on public health and safety when we were talking about the process for reporting noise complaints. So I do remember Judy's point about being directed to VTrans. And then the other part of that was that they were supposed to produce a report that would be given to Middlebury Police so that we could track the data. And there was no easy way to enforce that, like how to trigger that. But maybe there's something you could put in here that says that a quarterly report on noise complaints should be delivered to the town of Middlebury Police Department. Something like that, you know, as your language. And then I do agree with Ross's point about provisions for the electrification of everything, you know, and I do hope that small flight will go that way. It makes me sick, you know, like actually to see air jet carbon emissions continuing in the direction that they're going. It just is the wrong direction. And I don't know where that technology is going. I hope it goes in that direction, and that will be quieter.
Those tiny drones are pretty loud.
That's true.
I don't know if electric planes are going to be an awful lot quieter.
Okay, maybe not.
I haven't heard one of the electric helicopters.
But I just think, you know, look at how successful the rail use has become in Middlebury, and the energy that's required to move that versus get something heavy up in the air is just so significantly different. And we just have to think about that, you know, and I know it's out of your purview, but it's certainly something that I think we all should be thinking about, you know, in terms of the future of airports, any airports.
Why don't you come forward, Ross?
Hi, Ross Conrad. You requested a proposed wording.
Correct.
So I came up with a sentence. Basically says, all future airport development should strongly consider and plan for infrastructure that will meet the needs of non-fossil fuel aircraft and ground vehicles, and building and hangar designs should meet the latest building energy efficiency standards. Something to that effect.
I can get behind that.
Board okay with that? Okay,
So are we considering doing another letter?
I think refreshing our letter.
Yeah.
I would like to, I'd like to get some visibility on the fact that our reporting is still not going smooth. And then I think Ross brought up a topic that has been near and dear to our community, and it doesn't hurt to make a point that ought to be in any master plan.
I thought Laura's suggestion of a quarterly report, and if the state felt that quarterly initially was too challenging to meet, maybe even a semi-annual report request, sharing with us noise complaint
I think all complaints.
Yeah.
Any,
Absolutely.
Filed complaints.
I think semi-annually is probably a cadence we can keep up with.
I think I would like to see that added. I think I would like to see that added if we're going to send another letter.
Yeah.
And
Okay,
maybe,
thank you, Ross.
Should I email this to
Yeah.
Kathleen? as well?
That'd be great.
not only a report of the complaints, but the suggested resolutions. You know, what, if there is something.
Resolutions.
John,
Just-
can you come forward, John? We're getting complaints from the listening audience.
Thank you. No objection to what Ross said, just to make you aware that the hangar buildings and all other construction at the airport is subject to the Vermont commercial building energy codes, just as everything's been done in your buildings and so forth. And so there are standards of construction, insulation, air tightness, fossil fuel usage and different heating systems. So there is a lot of oversight there, and those have grown in stature over the last 10 years, quite a bit. So they are responding well to the demands here.
Okay, so the hangars are probably already being watched for those types of conditions, but
The ones that I'm working on, yes.
yes,
Those individual hangars,
yeah.
some legislators in their wisdom exempted those from building codes. You'll have to ask them why they did it, okay?
Okay,
We have one hand up in the audience.
okay.
Hi, Andrew.
Andrew, are you with us?
Hopefully, can you hear me?
We can hear you.
I can hardly hear you, but I'll press on. Thank you for letting me add some comments here. I just wanted to make just a couple, I think it's a question and a comment. Back in April, I think it was you, Brian, committed to, once the master plan was in final form, which I think it is close to being final form, there's obviously another iteration, that you promised that there would be a debate or a presentation directly to the select board. And I wanted to know if that was a commitment that will be fulfilled. I think given the comments and the time spent on this, I think there's definitely an opportunity to debate the pros and cons of the airport from the point of view of the town of Middlebury, not from the point of view of V-Trans. The two public meetings that have taken place have been presentations from the point of view of V-Trans and from their consultants. And I think the commitment back in April, I thought, was a slightly different take, which was that V-Trans would come to the select board and present the plan and be open to debate the pros and cons of the wider questions beyond even the master plan, I think. So that was the one, whether, maybe I'll stop there and see if Brian wants to respond to that.
Yeah, I guess I feel like we have been debating this airport all year. And I don't know how much energy I got left to expend on debating the pros and cons of the airport, given that we have limited control over it, Andy, and you know, there's people coming down on both sides, and we've got real issues that we're really trying to address: housing for families, childcare, and my energy is I'm just running out of energy. You know, and I'm getting to the point where I feel like we've gotten a number of concessions, and where do we stop for one or two people? And so I don't know where I'm at on that, Andy. You know, you had a huge issue, and we gained a concession, a real major concession, I feel like, for you, if you care to take that concession. And so I'm ready to turn the corner and work on some issues that impact a lot of people and impact the future of our community more than what the airport does. That's where I'm at. Are you there?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you.
Oh, sorry, I didn't know I was still on. That's fine, Brian. Well, on the concessions, the select board did write the letter, and I think there were 4 points in that: the environmental, looking for environmental safeguards, talking about the water source, amend the hangar footprints, which I think you were just referring to take account of residential properties. I think the third one was the airport road improvements, and I think the fourth one was better communication with neighbors as this planning process concludes, but also as as others may begin. And I don't know whether did the select board receive a response to any or all of those?
I would say that they've addressed at least for sure 2 of those, and are working, yes, at least 3 of those. I mean, the communication process has been changed, the hangar footprint has been changed, and they're certainly committed to the environmental. I forget what that 4th one was, but
Improvement to the
Airport Road.
improvement to the airport road had a trigger in it, and is not something that is in the immediate plan. It's something that comes down as if at some future point the traffic count moves up on Airport Road.
Okay. Is that part of the public record, the responses to those?
I know no, it's probably not, because I know like one of them is direct to you, Andy. So.
Well.
I don't appreciate this.
I actually haven't heard anything specifically.
That's not right.
We can talk offline on that. But,
yeah.
I guess my final point is just that the concerns are often not asymmetric. That's one thing I've learned through this whole process. And what I mean by that is that to some people, the airport is a place to have recreational flying, a hobby, and the concern mainly there is, certainly around hangars, is to be able to protect their expensive aircraft from the winter, from the toils of the winter in Vermont. Whereas for others, for other residences, for residential homeowners, the concerns are a lot deeper and I think more meaningful in the sense that they go to quality of life, to the environment, to the noise, to pollution. And one comment on the pollution aspect of it is that, and Ross had shared this with the group of us that the single biggest source of lead in the environment is from leaded fuel still used by aircraft that fly across homes and across schools and across libraries and particularly in and around East Middlebury. So those are different scales, and I don't think they're equivalents to some of the other non-residential concerns about the airport. So I just want to put that on the record that the concerns about the airport are not symmetrical. So you can't equivocate the concerns of the residents from the concerns of the users, I believe. And I think the town, I guess my final point on that is the town should take that into consideration in any letter it writes, that the substantial concerns of its residents.
Okay, I'm not, yeah, I guess I'm not sure. That's brand new discussion and not something I'm in any way prepared to include in a letter, Andy. I mean, that's about discussion about lead. So, all right.
Raised his hand again.
What's that?
Andy raised his hand again.
He did?
Mhm. Oh, and Judy.
But his hand was up when he was. I'm ready to move on. So, do you guys want to hear from Judy on this?
Okay.
Do we have a sentence that would be included on the noise and tracking of complaints at the airport?
I can work with request a semi-annual report on complaints
Okay.
and proposed resolutions.
Okay.
Put
And-
that into a consistent form with the other points.
Okay. Thank you, Catherine.
Okay, and this would be an updated letter asking for the few additional things, right? Okay, is there anything else that anybody would like to include in our letter?
No.
Okay, then I guess I would look for a motion to authorize Kathleen to get a letter out for us.
I'll move to authorize the town manager Kathleen Ramsey to draft an additional written letter from the select board to be submitted to VTrans, further summarizing the position publicly statement by select board this evening.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Comments on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, check warrants is me. I'm not sure who's got it for
I
tonight.
got it.
You got
You
it.
got it.
There
My
we go.
first check warrant.
You missed it.
Okay, I
gotta talk
move
to
to
Deb about
approve
giving
total
her this.
expenditures in the amount of $280,303.10, consisting of $166,336.08 for accounts payable and $113,967.02 for payroll for the period of December 28th, 2022 through January 3rd, 2023.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay. Board member concerns. Andy.
I'm good. One thing that came up was a mention from Fred of AECDECAC about the plastics plant, the
Yeah.
folks trying to to use the films for things. And I was wondering if we knew anything.
Said they're
more
working
about
on
that.
getting funding.
Right. Okay. That's good. I'm glad it's still in process. Okay. That's
Okay,
enough.
all right, Dan?
Just a quick question, Kathleen. I remember last select board meeting, we voted for a $26,000, I think, generator for the Holiday Road. Are we going to vote for a generator for the Helpin Road all in? Did that fail? That failed during the,
Follow up on that?
Dundon's was there pumping it out about every 2 hours. And
Really?
yeah,
Oy.
and that's a relatively new one. And then a generator appeared about 24 hours into it, next to it. I never heard it fire up, but so we might have lost a $26,000 pump. So that was we're going to be just a quick question. We're going to be having a vote on a new town clerk. Have we had seen any interest of anybody? Is that something the select board could be helping to move along?
There have been a few inquiries. I don't believe anybody's submitted a petition at this point. So if you,
Maybe once we have petitions, we could bring them in and let them present themselves in front of the people that are watching, and
I think that'd be great.
give them an opportunity once, probably closer to election day though. And I'm sure the Addison Independent will also do interviews. That's a big event.
I'm just asking people, seeing if there's anybody that I know that might be interested.
yeah, have
My
them
wife
stop
said
by and
no.
see Ann.
I think she said something stronger than that. She'd be great. In fact.
Okay, Isabel,
I'm good.
you're
Thank
good? Farhad? Okay,
I just would like to publicly thank the line workers and road crews and police department and fire and all of these who put such a great effort in to the Christmas weekend storm cleanup and working to be away from their families to get people back online. So just a big thank you out to them.
Public Works Department. I don't know if you mentioned that part too.
Yes.
They're cheerful to talk to at really early in the morning and 70-mile-an-hour winds. They were great.
yeah, it was quite an event, wasn't it? We have an executive session, Kathleen?
We do not.
We do not.
Wow.
Okay. Are we going to have one before? Is there, because I see there's stuff in the draft, the draft town meeting notice. We'll be having one maybe next
Yeah.
week? or-
I may have Benj come to it
Okay.
to discuss,
All right, got it.
provide an update.
Okay. So then,
Motion to adjourn?
motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Thank you.
We're more effective than the United States House of Representatives.
Gentlemen.